saying the name of the city.
They had a demonstration with green bands, and they were protesting the government because the government reduced the taxi fee from $10 to $5. People were, are you crazy? Are you nuts? Like, it's cheaper now to take a taxi. And they said, no, we used to walk to home and save $10. Now it's cheaper, we walk home and we just save $5. It's exactly this framework, yeah? Okay, so what happens? The leisure becomes more expensive. Again, this is a nightmare. If you have ever had a well-paid job, an hourly well-paid job, you always calculate the back of your head, okay, I'm having a party, 4 hours with friends, you know, $50 per hour, $200. Oh, that's a lot of money. So it's really good to have a job which limits your maximum weekly, not income, weekly hours of work. I guess in Europe they take this slide. They don't allow you to control your labor supply. They don't, you know, they put a band there. Otherwise, if you have this, people who work like in consulting and so on, they have always this problem. But everything has a price for them, so you always calculate. And it's true. So you calculate, okay, if I go to a party, I will lose $300. Then, okay, let's take this example and continue. Suppose you earn $50 or $60 per hour. So you see that going and visiting friends costs you $250. But at the same time, he said you need leisure. You cannot, you know, go away from your leisure. You cannot work like a machine all the week. What's the calculation at the back of your head? What are you going to do? If you are a very, very expensive, you are a lawyer earning $250 per hour, what happens to you then? Take expensive leisure, which, what's the point of that?
Time.
Very good. So the more you earn in the market, the more productive your leisure is going to be. So instead of going to cheap restaurants, you go to very expensive restaurant which serves you very quickly, right? No, that's a different. Fast food is not leisure. That's a different story. What I'm saying is your leisure, right? Or I don't know, take trips, expensive trips. I'm sorry. You go by business class, all these things. So you make a trade-off. You say, okay, now since normal leisure is more expensive for me, let's save this money, work instead, and then buy other leisures which may give you more pleasure at the end. Yeah? Okay. Now I guess we have built our framework. Now you should agree with me how we're going to think.
Something is not right.
Okay, what's that?
Everything is in rush. Everything is in rush.
No, everything is in equilibrium.
The thing that is not right is that you're optimizing money, not...
No, not at all. What I'm optimizing, I'm maximizing. Let me write it here. I'm coming back to the beginning. I'm maximizing my pleasure, which was a function of my money income and my leisure. So we agreed that at the end, I'm deriving pleasure from the time plus or multiplied by the quality of the materials I'm consuming. So I'm traveling with business class the same time, but with higher price for better quality materials. I'm going to better restaurants, etc., etc. No, I'm not maximizing income at all. If I think in the framework of income, then this optimization problem is a void problem. It has only one trivial solution. You always maximize it. But there is a trade-off between these two factors. So if I draw the graph, it's something like this. Your maximum is not in the boundaries. Your maximum is somewhere here. This is an iso pleasure line, if I can define it like that. These are all the locus of the points which give you the same pleasure. And then you try to find the one which gives you with the lowest cost. So what is changing here is that the slope of these curves are changing when you change your hourly income, right? Now you can play with the curves.
Ignoring the fact that within the first $100,000 you make,
okay,
has
that's
more
very true.
pleasure than the second one and third and so on.
Yeah, I didn't say anything about the functional form of this graph. You're absolutely right. Or even take it simpler. Even simpler than that. if you have a lot of free time, suppose you are working only 4 hours per day, and then a slight increase in your hourly income will trigger a lot of increase in your time supply. So you work 4 hours, you're bored of staying at home. So if they pay $2 more, you say, okay, let's go and work more. But if you are already working 16 hours per hour, think of you're working 16 hours per day, and they double your income, maybe you want to add only 1 hour. Because the less, like everything else, the more scarce is the leisure, the more precise it's. So if you have only 5 hours of free time for you, it's very valuable for you. You don't want to sacrifice it. But if you have a lot of that, it's like water everywhere, so you don't really pay price for that. So at the reality, when you want to estimate and calibrate these models, you exactly do what you are suggesting. So you take a functional form which captures all these effects you are saying. So the slope is changing. So to conclude, we have 2 effects. On the one hand, I have a cost effect, which we talked a lot, because now everybody has a feeling about that. On the other hand, I didn't talk that much about that. I have an income effect. What does income effect mean? Income effect means that if I earn more, with the same amount of working, suppose now I keep the total per week working time fixed, my income is higher. When I'm a wealthier person, what a wealthier person does, consumes more. And this consumption means consumption of more from the market goods and consumption more from the leisure. Now I'm a wealthier person, I can buy more leisure for myself. So a person who's really suffering from poverty cannot afford to have a weekend. Someone who has a decent salary can afford to work only 4 days per week. So there are 2 contradictory effects, 2 opposite effects. One tries to push the total amount of working in the market up because it's more costly to sleep at home. And the other one tries to push it down because at the beginning you were saying that, I have less needs, so I'm a wealthier person, I can afford more leisure for myself. And therefore the final answer is not clear. So it can be either increasing or decreasing based on where I'm standing on this curve. So both the answers you said is correct. I guess your initial conjecture were right. It depends how much you value an extra hour of leisure, how much you value more consumption. So there the different personalities come in. So if you are someone, I guess you can see it very, very clearly. If you are someone who enjoys more from consumption from the market, you tend to work more. So if you are someone who really likes wearing a trouser with, I don't know, what's the brand? I don't know, Nike? Whatever. So if you really enjoy, instead of paying $20 and buying this, pay $150 and buy a branded one, or whatever, you probably go and work more because your pleasure from market goods is quite high. If you're someone who really likes sitting and watching movies or reading books, you're probably going to cut your lazy. Yeah. If they add to my salary, I quickly cut it. I want to sleep at home or give talks or do something. So it depends on the nature of your consumption. So, but we can have the so-called comparative statistics. So the more you enjoy from your own type of time, so from reading and talking to friends and so on, the more probable is that you are going to cut your total working time. If you enjoy more from the market goods, you are going to add to it. And of course, it depends on where in the life cycle you are, if you are close to retirement, if you're at the beginning, all these factors. But just now, keep it simple. Now we have the framework. And the whole talk I'm going to, so the whole issue about women, I guess, is, I can stop here and you can for yourself imagine the rest of the talk. Because once you have this framework, you can easily analyze what happens to lots of decisions women should make. Let's think of a very, very important decision by women, apart from working outside of home. What's the big element, time-consuming element in the life of a family? Yeah, giving birth and raising children. So what do you think in this framework? What happens then? What is going to explain what? What?
What is that? What that is going to explain?
So how can I use this framework for